What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Les Abbott of Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. And I just wanted to make this today to talk about a couple events that I really enjoy watching every year. I make it a point to sit down and keep track of these events just because I enjoy them so much. And hopefully you do too, but if not, you still clicked on this video, so you're still helping me out, so I appreciate that. And, of course, to help me out even more, you can always like and subscribe to Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel for more points like this. But without further ado, let's get into the video. And the topic I want to talk about, the first topic I want to talk about today is the McDonald's All-American game, which, of course, All-Star games have always a special place in my heart. I grew up going to games with my grandpa. He would take me, being a Louisville native, to the Derby City All-Star Classic every year. And even in 2007, when with that absolutely loaded McDonald's All-American class came to Louisville, the one with Derrick Rose and OJ Mayo, Eric Gordon, Blake Griffin, Michael Beasley, all kinds of guys, right? Got to go to that, real fun experience. So ever since really those experiences growing up, I've always had a special place in my heart for All-Star games. So I make it a point to watch the McDonald's game, the Jordan Brand Classic, and the Nike Hoop Summit game, which the Nike Hoop Summit game I will mention here in a little bit. But the 2023 McDonald's All-American class had a little bit different feel to it. Usually when you think of All-Star games, you think of, just a chance to get a first kind of glimpse at the future stars of tomorrow. You don't really get to see a lot of, important stuff. You get to see their athleticism, their swag, whatever. But usually it's just lackadaisical play, a lot of alley-oops, a lot of dunks, a lot of layups. Not really the most intense basketball, right? Well, normally you would be correct, except this one was a little different. This game actually had the feel of a national championship game more than an all-star game. Those guys came out to play, and it was really fun to watch. This 2023 class is said to not be maybe the most talented class, according to some NBA draft experts, some scouting experts, or whatever. I don't really know how much I buy into that, but, that's just what's being said. But where they lack in talent, they make up for in motor and how they play. They play super hard. They take everything seriously, and I absolutely love it, because if you're playing that hard in an all-star game, I can't wait to see how you play in games that actually matter. But that was the first thing that stood out. And the next thing I want to talk about is kind of the big story that was heading into the All-Star game. And that's how many legacies were playing in this game. Of course, we all know about Bronny James. Of course, we all know about DJ Wagner. But also you had Andrei Stojakovic, son of Peja Stojakovic. And you had Reed Sheppard, who's son of Kentucky legend Jeff Sheppard, being a Louisville native. I know all about them. Of course, one of the big storylines is that Bronny James, even though despite being ranked a top 40 recruit, depending on which site you look at, the rumor is that he really didn't deserve to be in this game, or that's just at least what a lot of fans say, that he's not good enough to be mentioned with the best players in this class. The only reason that he was mentioned is because, he's LeBron's kid. And I think he came out and proved any speculation of that narrative false, because he comes out and he played great defense. He showcased that he is a very high IQ basketball player, made all the right passes. And, of course, he came out and hit 5 threes and scored 15 points. If anything, Bronny James silenced all critics that don't think that he is worthy of being mentioned with the other names of the top players in this class. The next name I want to talk about is, depending on which recruiting site you look at, the number 1 ranked player in the country, and that is DJ Wagner. He's one of the other legacies. Very high-ranked recruit, very talented player. Even went as far as to win All-Star Game MVP for his squad. I'm still not as high on him as most, right? That doesn't mean he's bad. I'm just not as high on him as maybe others are. And I think this performance really solidifies that for me. There's a lot to like about him, whether it's his skill set or his alpha dog mentality. But the way people were drooling over his performance, I didn't think it was all that. The way they were talking about it, it was like maybe a LeBron-like performance back in 2003. It wasn't anything like that. It was good. It wasn't anything like that, but still good nonetheless. Not exactly hating. I'm not as high on him as most, but that doesn't take away that he is a good player in his own right, and the fact that these other Kentucky recruits are really good, and that class is worth every single bit of the hype that you can think of. So moving on to him, talk about Andrei Stojakovic. One thing that stood out to me is that he was proving that he is more than just a shooter. And of course, the last legacy I want to talk about is Reed Sheppard, who, being a Kentucky native, he represented the state of Kentucky really well. And unlike, I'm seeing a lot of narrative that people don't think Reed will get a lot of playing time year one. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I've seen him play up close, in person, even covered some of his games. He's every bit of a 5-star recruit. I think he sees the floor year one, but that is just my opinion. But obviously, I make it a point to watch the game every year. But, the main thing is I got to see how my guys look, how the Duke guys look. Jared McCain, Sean Stewart, and formerly Mackenzie Mbako before he decided to opt out of his national letter of intent. I really liked what I saw from McCain and Stewart. Mbako didn't really do a lot to insert himself in this game, but that's okay. But McCain showcased a lot of high basketball IQ and a great shooting stroke. And, of course, he won the three-point contest and put on one of the best three-point shooting contest performances in McDonald's game history. So that's promising. But the next guy, and, of course, y'all know I got two teams. So I got to talk about my Texas Longhorn, Ron Holland, who looked absolutely phenomenal and, in my opinion, is the best player in this class. And if he showed any of that, is obviously there's a lot to like from his combination of size, length, athleticism, and his motor on the defensive side of the ball. That's where he makes a lot of his calling card, and I think that's where he's going to be an absolute star at the next level. But as the game took place, as mentioned earlier, it was a really, really good game. Both teams playing extremely hard, really fun to watch. But as the game went to a close, you really saw the two alpha dogs of this class in point guards, Isaiah Collier and DJ Wagner, really put the game into their own hands and decide to take over and decide the game. And just seeing those two go at it in the game, that was really special to see. And you never know, Isaiah Collier made it very clear that he is recruiting Bronny James to come to USC, as a lot of the recruits were. But I'm picturing a future of Isaiah Collier and Bronny James. That might be a scary sight in that Pac-12 next season. But anyways, I think that wraps up everything I have to say about the McDonald's game. I am going to now go to the Geico Nationals, which is, of course, a tournament between the top 8 high school teams in the world, made up of mostly prep schools. It's the most slept-on basketball tournament in the world. And which made this one really special is that the defending two-time champion Montverde Eagles were eliminated in the quarterfinals. Yes, the Montverde team that has won 6 of the last, 10 or 11 Geico Nationals were eliminated in the quarterfinals, despite having an absolutely loaded roster, as they often do. But they lost to a very good Sunrise Christian team who has one of the best players in this recruiting class, and Mastas Buzelis, who will be opting to skip college and go straight to the G League. But anyways, still very, very good tournament. Came down to the championship game between Link Academy and I'm blanking on here for a second. Oh, sorry. It was between Link Academy and AZ Compass Prep, which was ultimately won by Link Academy, which is really impressive because they've only been active for about 2 seasons now. They went to the championship game last year where they would lose to Montverde, but they were able to get over the hump and win in their second official varsity season, the Geico Nationals, which that's a problem for years to come. And I mean that in the best way possible, because we're used to the tournament being dominated by Montverde in recent years, but the fact that we have this team that's already had this much success in only 2 seasons of varsity play shows that Montverde is going to have they're going to give Montverde a run for their money for the next several years or next decade. But of course, some of the players that I want to mention that really stood out from this tournament, as much as I hate to say it because he could possibly reclassify and join the North Carolina Tar Heels this year, and that's Elliot Cadeau. He is, in my opinion, the best passer in this class, best facilitator, just has a knack for getting his teammates involved, and of course, when he needs to, he can get a bucket. The next one is Jacoby Walter, and anyone who listens to this podcast knows how high I was on Keontae George last year, right? Well, this guy is every bit the scorer that Keontae George is, except he's longer, more athletic, and a better defender. So honestly, I like him even better than Keontae George, and that's saying something. And, of course, the third player that stood out might be one of, if not the best players in the class, and that is Masas Buzelis, who like I mentioned earlier, is skipping the college game to go to the G League Ignite. He does need to add on a couple bit of muscle, but at 6'9", the skill set is there, and that touch and his shooting stroke is absolutely smooth, and it's fun to watch. But that wraps up everything I have to say about the Geico Nationals, and I'm going to take it to the last segment and then talk about the Nike Hoop Summit, which, like the McDonald's game, it was a game. It was not like an all-star game. And, of course, to prove my point, I watched towards the end of the game Team USA come up with 3 straight blocks on Team World to eventually ice the game. But, of course, the part that I love the most is that my Duke guys showed out. Or former Duke guys in this case, because it was my first time that I was really overly impressed with Mackenzie Mbako. And, of course, right as I'm impressed by him, he decides to get out of his national letter of intent. But, that's just the way life works sometimes, right? But overall, Jared McCain, Sean Stewart looked really good as well. But Mackenzie Mbako, I want to kind of touch on this just so people don't think I'm a hater because he got out of his national letter of intent. I've kind of always had, my skepticism of Mackenzie Mbako. Make no mistake about it, he's got all the talent in the world to be a star. But I question the way he asserts himself. Sometimes I feel like he lets a little bit go by, or just kind of too many times waits too long to let the game come to him without actually taking what's his. I guess doesn't really have that alpha dog mentality that maybe a Isaiah Collier or a DJ Wagner have, right? So it's not that I've ever questioned his skill set. That's all there. It's his mentality, or his will to take over a game that I've maybe questioned. But he did a great job of silencing that in the Nike Hoop Summit. Was arguably the best player on the court, and skill set was in full effect. And, of course, the last thing I'm going to talk about is Ron Holland was Ron Holland. Like I've said before, I think he's the best player in this class. I stand by that, and I think Texas is getting an absolute stud, and he will fit in with Rodney Terry year one. And, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. That wraps up some of my thoughts about some events I wanted to cover. I hope you all enjoyed this video or audio, whatever format that you are listening to this on. And, if you want to add anything to what I said, please comment in the comment section below. But without further ado, that's all I got. Thank you for listening to me for about 13 minutes. It's 13 minutes of your life you'll never get back. And sorry, not sorry. But until next time, be on the lookout for our new content coming soon. Bye.